I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker to be the MVP, and I'm going to take the Seahawks to win this game 27-16. 27-16 is my score pick. And as we showed it earlier, the score pick.
Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
I take a bow. And welcome to 757 Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe and interact with us as we greet you after the Super Bowl champions have been crowned, and they are none other than the Seattle Seahawks. They get it done over the New England Patriots 29-13 on Sunday night in a game, Ed, where defense ruled the day. The dark side defense for Seattle was the story in this matchup. They hold New England in the first half to literally 51 yards of net offense, next to nothing. They converted 2 third downs. Their first they had 4 first downs, 6 punts, and falling behind 12-0. And it was pretty much just a dominant effort from that group. 6 sacks. And Kenneth Walker gets the MVP, like yours truly proclaimed. My score was almost on the button, too. 135 yards rushing to go with his 26 yards receiving. And Ed, he's the first running back since Terrell Davis back in 1998 to get that honor. We're talking 28 years. Incredible.
Yeah, it is amazing that award almost is reserved for quarterback, winning quarterback. But, Davis, a lot of people had him under 100 yards. Actually, they had him under 70 yards, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm thinking
Walker. You talking about Walker or Davis?
Yeah, Walker. Yeah. And I'm thinking, why? He's probably the best back in the game. Why would you say he's not going to get 100? I mean, New England defense is tough, but you got a whole game to get 100 yards. I don't see why he couldn't. And I think his first carry, I think he got a first down on his first carry, 10 yards. And it kind of set his tone to what he was going to do. And definitely highlight player in there. I don't think he didn't get in the end zone, correct?
No, he did not have a rushing score. There wasn't a touchdown in this game. It was, let's be honest here, folks, it was a relatively boring Super Bowl for 3 quarters. And I'm sure Ed will rant later in the show as if he did, I think it was a week or 2 ago, about Blue Bunny, Bad Bunny, Easter Bunny, Bugs Bunny. He didn't care for the halftime show. But nonetheless, that was standing. And the commercials were not all that, great in his opinion, I'm sure. But I'll let you talk about that later. We didn't have a touchdown until A.J. Barner catches the one in the fourth quarter on a 16-yarder from Sam Darnold. Then we get more scores as the over-under was in jeopardy there in the fourth quarter. We went from having literally 9 points in 3 quarters to an explosion with 30 points in that fourth quarter. I'm sorry, we had 12 points through 3 quarters, 9 points in the first half, and it becomes an explosion in that fourth quarter with touchdowns. Mac Hollins gets one, Ramondre Stevenson gets one. Drake May, though, had the turnovers. And that leads me to the thing that Shireen Williams told us on 757 Sports Talk, she of Pro Football Talk and NBC Sports. We asked her about the MVP possibility and also about what would be the key to this game, the defensive lines against the offensive lines. How big of a deal would they be? Well, here's what she said.
Seattle defense is so good. It's not going to surprise me if the MVP comes off the defense. Of course, Sam Darnold's the betting favorite, but it's not going to surprise me with as good as that Seahawks defense is if the MVP comes off of that defense and not the offense. Because I think if Sam Darnold doesn't turn the ball over, if they protect him, he doesn't turn the ball over, I think Seattle wins this game handily. I don't think it's going to be close. I think that New England defense can keep it close for a bit, but if they don't force turnovers, then I think Seattle's going to end up running away with this game. So, as Bill Parcells taught me so many times when I was covering him, you got to have a good offensive line. You got to have a defensive line. That's where it starts. If you have a good offensive line and a good defensive line, you're going to have a chance in every single game. And I think we've seen that with these 2 teams, with good offensive lines and good defensive lines. So the quarterback play and the lack of turnovers or the amount of turnovers that one of these quarterbacks has could have the final say. And, Drake May, frankly, in the postseason has been a little loose with the football. And he hasn't had to pay a price yet, but he could pay a price against the Seattle defense.
Did she nail that or what? 3 turnovers for May. He has 2 picks, one of which was initially called a strip sack fumble that was later changed to a pick 6. Had a fumble as well, so 3 giveaways. Sam Darnold, who led the league in turnovers, didn't commit one. And while his numbers were not that glossy or impressive, ended up going in the first half, Ed, 9 of 22 for 88 yards passing. Christian Gonzalez did an awesome job in containing Jackson Smith and Jigba, the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year. But Darnold didn't make the mistake, and Seattle's defense feasted.
Yeah, it went, I think, according to form, how a lot of the experts figured it would be. Seattle defense among the best, if not the best in the league. They showed it. I would give a lot of credit to New England defense.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of that game was 9-0, no touchdown.
Yeah.
And I say to the New England offense, and Drake, what are y'all doing? Your defense is doing a pretty good job. 3 field goals. Now, they can't keep holding them all night long.
Well, hold on. 2 rookies on that offensive line they wet the bed. Let's just call it what it was. The 2 rooks on that O-line for New England had a rough day. And in particular, the rough day was the left tackle, Mr. Campbell, number 66, Will Campbell. Another rookie on that offensive line struggled. 2 rookies on the O-line against that Seattle defensive front, which was relentless. Devin Witherspoon coming in blitzing from the secondary spot. That was a tone setter early to go with what you mentioned, Kenneth Walker's first down run and him moving the football effectively on the ground against a really stout New England defense. But you could tell the Patriots were trying to pick that route. Early in that game, that first series, they were trying to jump the routes and undercut passes, and they didn't get that pick 6. They had a couple of chances to get one to sort of rattle Darnold, and once they didn't, you felt like Seattle could play ball control. They had quality receivers, and not just JSN, but Cooper Kupp, who's been an MVP in the Super Bowl. They would be efficient enough if Darnold didn't make a risky throw, and he got away with a couple of risky throws early, and then they played clean football. They had no penalties in the first half, and sports is all about fewest mistakes wins the game. It was sort of a ho-hum yawner type of game, but that defense, it did the day. And you know what? This defense will now go down as one of the best all time, which will be part of our next segment. I'm going to rank my top 5 NFL defenses, and Ed will critique it as the coach in the history of the National Football League. But remember, they were the top scoring defense from 2012 to 2015, Legion of Boom. A lot of guys that people remember, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor from the 757 in Maury High School in Norfolk. And this defense didn't have the names to it, the marquee flavor, if you will, but they came through in a big spot. And let's be honest, too. Some will say that Philadelphia defense last year might have been better. Well, they had to stop Patrick Mahomes. This New England offense with a second-year quarterback, they were limited, very limited.
Yeah, Drake May didn't play like one of his better games, and it just seemed like they broke down as the game went on. Once Seattle broke that door down on getting inside to the quarterback, getting in the back, that pretty much shut down their passing game. Really couldn't get anything going. Speaking of passing game, can you imagine if Christian Gonzalez wasn't as good as he was on those 2 knockaways?
Absolutely.
The game would have been a route way before.
100%. Great point by you. I mean,
they were 2 really good defensive knockdowns.
Yes, absolutely. The one was just absolutely amazing. And that, I wonder if you wondered early, because I had Kenneth Walker as my MVP pick, so I'm gloating about that. And Ed can gloat about something in the picks here, folks, which we'll talk about in the next segment of the show. I was so adamant it would be red or pink in the Gatorade, and it was yellow-green, so he got that one right. I'm so upset about that. Oh, why? My source gave me bad info. But I got Walker right, the MVP, and the score, and everything else was A-okay there. But Buffalo and Denver have to be kicking themselves. Nick's got hurt for Denver. Sean Payton not kicking the field goal. They still could have won that game with a backup quarterback in the AFC Championship game. And Buffalo's chances with their giveaways, turnovers, mistakes will beat you in sports in the playoffs. And Josh Allen didn't have, Stephon Diggs, which he used to. They got to go get that go-to receiver. But Myers was in play at the kicker to be the Super Bowl MVP, even though Walker got it because he made – in this game 5 field goals, 5, a record. Jason Myers.
I agree 100%. If Walker didn't get 100 yards, everything stays the same. Myers gets the MVP. Who else is going to give it to?
Well, they also showed the graphic during the game, if you remember, that he ended up surpassing LaDainian Tomlinson for the most points in a single season. The other LT, not the LT that started in the 7.57, Lawrence Taylor, arguably the greatest defensive player of all time from the New York Football Giants, who went to Lafayette High School and then starred at UNC for the Tar Heels. A couple of Tar Heels hooked up in Drake May and Matt Collins in that fourth quarter, but once they got that defensive play after the field goal, it was all she wrote. New England was not coming back, and that was the nail in the coffin. And Seattle's the Super Bowl champs in a game that if you had to grade it among the 60 Super Bowls all time, and you've witnessed probably, about 40 of them in your lifetime, 45 of them, 50 of them, it's not
nearly all of them.
It's not in the upper half of better games, was it? It was probably a C minus game.
No, it wasn't, because I'm going to remember this as a majority 9-0 game for the most part. And even then felt it was over, even though it's only 9 points. And, and personal bias, I'm not a Seattle or New England fan at all. Sure. I'm a football fan. And, of course, Super Bowl is a big, big deal. And I watched it, and I didn't really watch it because I was, I've got 4 games this week myself. So I was doing a lot of work on scouting on 4 different teams. So I spent a lot of time watching that screen instead of TV. I just kind of heard it. So really wasn't into it because it wasn't 2 of my favorite teams. But it really wasn't. But Seattle, like I said, they'll have to get a lot of credit for this game in terms of their defense and how they played. But, when you mentioned Myers about being a kicker, I just started thinking to myself, 60 Super Bowls, was there ever a kicker named MVP?
No, hasn't happened. And, Adam Vinatieri could have got it that year, and he just got into the Football Hall of Fame. Congrats to him with that class with Drew Brees and, of course, Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Kurt Warner's go-to target in the desert. And you had Luke Kuechly, and you had Roger Craig getting in. All the talk was about Belichick and Robert Kraft not getting in. But, he had a great chance of it, had a really great chance. And I thought Witherspoon was, if you were to give the gold, silver, bronze, it'd be gold to Walker, it'd be silver to Myers, the kicker, Jason Myers, and then bronze would be Devin Witherspoon, the guy that was helping set the tone for that defense and what they did in harassing Drake May and the Patriots offense all night long. Lionel Richie was getting none of that. But coming up, Ed will chime in on what he thought about the commercials and the halftime show, and I'll have my top 5 defenses all time here on Cova Sports TV and tell you if the Hawks make the top 5. It's all coming your way here on 757 Sports Talk. You're watching with us on Cova Sports TV. Back in a bit.
This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
And we're back here on 757 Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe and interact with us wherever you are tuning in. Ed, before we get to my top 5 defenses of all time in the National Football League's history, as the Seattle Seahawks were crowned champions with their victory over the New England Patriots on Sunday night, 29-13 out there by the Bay. Your thoughts, your grades, your commentary on the commercials and the halftime, which I know, along with the partying and the chips and the salsa and all the things you do that goes along with the Super Bowl, that's become an event more than a game. That's what you look forward to as much as the pigskin.
Well, first of all, I didn't splurge. I had a sub from a local sub shop whose name will remain nameless because they don't sponsor.
I got my 5-layer dip after going to a seafood joint on Alaskan Road. I won't say their name because they don't sponsor either, so go ahead.
So I was content. Wasn't overly hungry today, so not really hype on the food situation. I know some people do it big. First halftime show, Bad Bunny. I will rate it. Let's see, 5 is great, 1 horrible. I will give it a 3.7. I'll give it a 3.9.
That's a better rating than I thought you would because you were so critical prior. Wow.
Yeah, Bad Bunny is okay. He's not one of my favorites. Don't really have any of his music downloaded.
He was a wrestler at one time, right?
Well, he dabbles with the WWE, and he's been in a match or 2, but he's very protected and all that mess. So what WWE is doing is trying to get him involved to get all his fan base, like the NFL does with Taylor Swift, because they both have millions of fans. So I get it. I get why that. It was okay. A lot went into that halftime show. Music was okay. A lot of people were saying they didn't understand a word he's saying because
I couldn't. I didn't get it. And I gave him a couple minutes, and I decided to go use the bathroom and do some other things like that. I wasn't hating on it. It just wasn't for me. And that's what I'll say. Sometimes certain things are just not for me.
Right.
That's okay.
And that's okay. I think that's how you have to look at it.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into a situation where you just really, it's horrible. I don't like that kind of music. I don't like
or
that.
make it political. That's
personal bias. There's a lot of music I love. There's some music I don't. And that's fine, because what they have to do on a level like that is year in and year out, you got to try to please a majority of people. You're never going to please everybody. So
your consumers are more than sports fans. Now, how about the commercials? You had a couple of favorites. I gave you two of mine. I'm not a big commercial guy.
I was kind of in tune to the commercials.
Okay, well, I'll give you two quickly for me. I got Liquid Death energy drink with the exploding heads right before Seattle's third series with a doctor, and the Grubhub commercial with George Clooney wasn't half bad. Those are my two, but I know you have more.
Those two, I like the Grubhub one. I wasn't real keen on the Liquid Death commercial, the energy drink. I like the.
You make my head explode from time to time.
I like the Goodwill Dunkin' Donuts one. Had a host of TV stars. Urkel was up there. Jaleel White.
Yeah.
Alfonso Ribeiro, who was the what's his name?
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He also does America's Funniest Home Videos. Yeah.
And you had French people, Matt LeBlanc, wrote them down, Jennifer Aniston, Jordan Alexander, who else? Ted Danson from Cheers was on there.
Malone.
I like that. It's tying in a little bit of the oldsters in there.
Yeah.
I like that one the best. And I always got to have Bud Light with the Clydesdales. This time the Clydesdales were talking to or friending up with the little birds. So that's the type ones that tug at my heart. That's what my Budweiser tries to get you with. Those were probably my two favorite.
Okay, there you have it. Now let's go over to my top 5 defenses of all time, as Seattle got it done with great defense to beat the Patriots. They kept them in check, almost pitched a shutout. They were 3/4 of the way done, becoming the first team to ever shut someone out in the Super Bowl. And it was on pace to be one of the lowest scoring Super Bowls of all time. You remember the one 11 years ago with the Rams and the Pats that was the lowest of all time. Or it wasn't 11 years ago. It might have been 7, 8 years ago. But it was in the last several years, I should say. I'll give the exact year in a moment here. But it started off with 5-1. And I'm going to rank this defense number 5. And by the way, not only did they get great pass rush throughout the night, 6 sacks on one Drake May, but that Pro Bowl safety, Julian Love, who's from your Notre Dame Fighting Irish, 7th-year safety, played the Giants, big interception at 19-7. That was pretty much the sealer to me in the ball game. But I'm going to put the Seahawks at number 5. They don't have a lot of hallmark guys, but they were top-scoring defense in the league. And outside of Matthew Stafford carving them up a couple of times, they shut down most every team that they played this year, or contained most every team. They played the Niners a couple of times. I'm going to put them at number 5. And, oh, by the way, I think we've closed the book on the MVP discussion, right? Drake May or Matthew Stafford? Yeah, I think that discussion's been settled now.
I think you see why they do it before the playoffs start for the most part, because he would have had no shot. And he ended up, 1 point behind him.
Yeah. So that's my number 5.
Speaking of MVP, the guy that voted for Herbert from the Chargers as MVP.
What's he doing?
Is TV not get many games or something?
He must not. And he didn't see the end of the year when they couldn't do anything against the Texans and then the playoffs against the Pats. But which, I mean, again, they vote for the playoffs. But hey, one more thing on the MVP, the Super Bowl MVP, before we get to my number 4, number 3, number 2, and number 1 defenses of all time in NFL history. Kenneth Walker's played 58, 59 regular season games, 3, 4 playoff games. This guy, Ed, has never lost a fumble. He's had a couple of fumbles, but never lost a fumble. So think about that for a second. We're talking about a lot of great backs in this league that do fumble. Derrick Henry from the Ravens, he'll fumble from time to time. James Cook with the Bills. Even Saquon Barkley from the Eagles, who won it last year, they'll fumble. Great backs fumble. And I'm not saying he's now in the immortal class with the Emmitt Smiths and the Barry Sanders, but this guy was a second-round pick a few years back from Michigan State in 2022. He transferred from Wake Forest, Michigan State, was not viewed as a signature back. And here he is getting MVP. And remember, Zach Charbonnet got hurt. I think it's pretty special. But back to my defenses. So I got the Seahawks number 5, all right? My number 4 defense of all time, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You remember that group with Warren Sapp and John Lynch and Derek Brooks? And John Lynch talked about it with his guys back there at Sluggo scene they were waiting for. John Gruden, Chucky, your former Raiders coach. They ended up reading it well, and they had the Dwight Smith, I think it was, pick 6. Brian Kelly had interceptions that year. That defense was fantastic, and they were a great defense. And then they had the coaching change from Dungy to Gruden. I'm putting them at number 4. Number 3, when you think of defenses, you think of the 70s and you think of the Steel Curtain. I mean, how many Hall of Famers did the Pittsburgh Steelers have in the 70s from their defenses? I mean, Mean Joe Green. We know Jack Ham. We know Mel Blount. We know Jack Lambert. That just Greenwood. The defense was just unbelievable for 6-7 years there in the 70s, and they shut people down in fewer regular season games, by the way. And in fact, that defense, I believe, started out 1-4. That team did, and their defense carried them as their offense got things turned around there with Bradshaw, Stallworth, and Swan. Number 2, and this will make the Steelers fans mad, I got them ahead, but that Baltimore Ravens defense. Remember, they made the quarterback switch from Tony Banks to Trent Dilfer, but that defense, loaded with talent, Hall of Famers. Ray Lewis was the face of that defense. That was before Ed Reed got there, but you had Rod Woodson, who was a former Steeler. You had Dwayne Starks. You had Peter Boulware. You had a lot of great players on that defense. Tony Saragusa and Sam Adams clogging the middle. The Goose was sort of the personality of that defense, but Ray Lewis was the man that really led that charge. And remember, they really kind of pitched a shutout in the Super Bowl, Ed, because the Giants' only touchdown that 34-7 Super Bowl, which was Super Bowl 36, if memory serves me right, or 35. I think it was 35. Super Bowl 35 was a Ron Dixon kickoff return. So their defense didn't give up any points in that game, essentially. And my number 1 defense, when you talk defense, you got to think of the monsters in the Midway. The Chicago Bears. Yes, with Buddy Ryan, the 46 defense that they led there with Mike Ditka and company. You had Mike Singletary. You had Richard Dent with all his sacks, Steve Mongo McMichael and Gary Finsick and Otis Wilson, and that was defense. And the Refrigerator, William Refrigerator Perry. Those guys, I mean, they intimidated the stuffings out of people. So those are my top 5 defenses. Again, to recap quickly, Seahawks this year, they just beat up the Eagles from last year for me. And now you could put up the Falcons and the Eagles from the 70s and 90s. Other teams you could put up there too. The Giants in the 80s, the Washington, then Redskins, the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm going to go Seahawks 5, Bucks in 02, 03, 4, Steelers 3 from 76, 77, Ravens 2 from 00 to 01, and the Bears with the coach, Ditka, and Buddy Ryan leading the way from 85, 86. There you go.
Well, my first reaction is good list.
Thank you.
Almost perfect order.
Uh-oh, you're going to say I left the Raiders out, or who did I leave out? Go ahead.
I want to say Raiders, but I really can't pull myself. Now, I don't have the years in front of me. Did not do homework on this one. 49ers.
Miami Dolphins, right? You're going to say Miami Dolphins and the 49ers. I knew you were going there, yep.
49ers, Dolphins, and Minnesota Vikings. I need to see their years.
The Purple People Eaters back in the late 60s and the 70s with Jim Marshall and Gary Larson and Carl Eller and Alan Page. So I'm aware. And the Dolphins were known more for their offenses. You think of Larry Zonka. You think of Fran Tarkenton. You think of the Niners, Joe Montana. I'm not diminishing those defenses being good. I'm just going with the 5 that stick out to me. And there's some recency bias here with the Seahawks, and it is fresh in our minds. But I put them behind the Bears, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Bucks for sure. But they're now in the conversation. They're in the conversation.
And the reason I might bump Seattle out of there now is because it is so fresh. It's the newest one. But I think what's going to happen over the next few years, people are going to say Seattle, oh, yeah, they were a really good defense, but New England sucked. They didn't play anybody really good in the Super Bowl.
You're totally right. You're totally right. And listen, Ed, all those other defenses didn't win multiple championships except the Steelers, because the Bears was a one-off, the Ravens was a one-off, the Bucks was a one-off. So you don't have to win 3-4 in a row. We're talking about a single season, a singular season here. Yeah.
And the thing about it is, when people will come back and say New England was no good, you got to go back and look what Seattle did all year. They were rated one of the best defenses all year in the league, start to finish. And I think that's what you have to really look at. You're going to put your emphasis on the Super Bowl, but you got to look what they did in the playoffs a little bit and the regular season a little bit as you go through that. I don't think you're going to have to say, well, I got to look at a team that won 2 or 3 Super Bowls within 3 or 4 years. No, because that doesn't happen a whole lot, especially nowadays. So you can't go out of that. But I like to think that either a Viking or a 49er, even a Cowboy defense is probably going to be in there. But since I don't see it, I can't really fight for them right now. I don't have the exact year. I definitely agree, number one, Bears, 85-86. I probably would go Steelers number 2 over Ravens. I'd probably switch your 2 and 3. Bucks, which a lot of people forget about, and that was a pretty good defensive squad in 02-03. And then you got Seattle 5th. And I'm only going to say I would probably bump Seattle out for one of those other ones. I just can't give it a year. Even a New York Giant team in there, I'd have to go back and really look at it.
LT, and the year after that, they won it. Yep.
Yeah, and that's probably the only thing I would do. I'd probably keep your 4 with a little rearrangement and bump the Seahawks out.
We've got more coming your way. We're going to talk some college hoops, high school hoops, plus Larry Rubama from the Pilot Daily Press 757's on the way. They're watching with us. Where, Ed?
Cova Sports TV.
And now back to Matthew Hatfield and the evil basketball coach. Blast you, Ed Young!
And we'll be back with the evil basketball coach, Ed Young. I am Matthew Hatfield, and it is 757 Sports Talk here on Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe. And Ed, what a weekend of college basketball it was. My goodness, it started off Friday night with St. John's, your guy, Ricky Pitino, beating Danny Hurley's UConn Huskies. It's the 3rd time now they have beaten UConn in a row. Huskies were riding an 18-game winning streak, and Silas DeMurray was trying to bring them back. The point guard with some acrobatic plays, the Georgia transfer, but Zuby Ejiofor wasn't having it, and St. John's got some timely makes, got behind the crowd at the Garden. It was roaring. And if you thought the crowd was roaring at MSG for St. John's, it was delirious with the buzzer beater and a comeback. And the rivalry of rivalries in college hoops down in the ACC, Tobacco Roads, the rivalry with Carolina and Duke, and UNC stormed back double-digit deficit. Caleb Wilson, a projected lottery pick, and his crew outlasting Cameron Boozer, a projected lottery pick, and his Duke group. Fans acted a fool, but Seth Trimble had the buzzer beater, and there will be a Chapter 2 in stores for St. John's UConn and a Chapter 2 in Durham with Duke and UNC. Plus, you had Nate Ament put forth a great effort for Tennessee in a losing cause. Rick Barnes' team flew a double-digit lead. I don't know if Barnes thought his team was, doing some things on the game like he insinuated a week or 2 ago. Kentucky roars back to win that game behind Otega Elway's big effort. And Houston beats BYU in Provo. AJ DeBonsa, projected top 2 pick along with Darren Peterson in Kansas. They lose yet again. They lost to Oklahoma State. They lose against Houston. A lot of great college hoopage.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because I was a little bit on the go this weekend, I didn't get to see anything. I saw a little bit of the highlight stuff. We're looking at our guy, Brad Wachtel. We're looking at his early Final Four.
Well, it's number 1 seeds, I should say, not his Final Four. He's from the world of 68.
Okay, number 1 seeds.
And he's a diehard Yanks fan like you, so we'll get him one, I'm sure, leading up to Selection Sunday. The NCAA Selection Committee puts out its top 4 and top 16 seeds coming up, I think, next weekend. So that'll be on CBS, I'm sure. But he said even if Houston beats BYU, which they did, 1 seed stay the same in his opinion of Arizona, Michigan, Duke, UConn. Duke and UConn taking L's. Michigan looking good in its win over Ohio State. They've swept them. Arizona's got a test on Monday night. They're 23-0. They've been mauling people, but they have to go to Fog Allen and take on the Jayhawks with Darren Peterson. And Flory Badunga's coming off a great effort inside to lead the way for Bill Self's Jayhawks. He's blocking shots. He's getting rebounds. He's improved. He's scoring it too. That's a tricky spot. Michigan looks great. They're my pick to win it all. Arizona, though, I can't argue with them being number 1. And my goodness, we have some other good games this week. You have Purdue at Nebraska. You got Clemson at Duke. You got KU and Iowa State, I think it is. Kentucky at Florida. And Florida, don't look now, but here comes Florida. They're making a push. And you have Virginia, even Virginia, which has a chance to make the NCAA tournament, a great chance, I should say. Ryan Odom doing wonders in year 1 at the helm of the Wahoos. They can make the tournament from the Commonwealth. So can VCU. So can George Mason. But Virginia has an interesting out-of-conference matchup at Ohio State. So the games are getting good, and we've had some riveting finishes. I think it's going to set up for an awesome madness of March, if you will, or month of March and the madness that will be coming up.
Agree 100% with you. That those number one seeds, somehow I got a feeling one of them won't make it.
Really?
One.
Okay.
They can drop to the 2 line. Just got a feeling one of them, for some reason, one of them won't be there at number one.
Well, that's fair to say. That's fair to say. Are you all in then on if one of those teams that's not the 1 seed? Are you thinking it's going to be maybe a Florida gets hot here and wins the SEC and just the defending champ's going to make it all the way there? Or do they have too many losses early on?
I think who's hot lately, and SEC. If you look at that list again, there's no SEC team, right? Nope.
But they're all beating up on each other right now, and I don't know that there's
that is the problem. But
right.
I think whoever comes out of there will probably have enough resolve to be a number 1 seed.
I don't see it, Ed. I mean, you got Illinois, who lost to Michigan State. You got Iowa State, Nebraska. They were projected 2 seeds. Florida's your best shot, but they're going to have to, if not run the table, win the regular season in the tournament and do so decisively. I don't see it this year. I know the SEC is a great league, but the Big 12 is better this year. I'm sorry, you might disagree with me, but the Big 12 is better and deeper, and they have more of the creme de la creme, I think, than the SEC this particular year.
I kind of think, give the Big 10 a slight edge over it.
No, Big 12's better than both of them. Disagree.
I think you're going to see
BYU's a 500 team in the league, and they can go beat just about anybody in the Big 10 or SEC.
I think when the smoke clears, Big 10 will have the most teams in.
You sure about that?
Time will tell.
Okay, we'll see. We shall see. We've got more coming your way on this episode of 757 Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV, including what, Ed? Who do we have coming up?
Who we have coming up? We got Larry Rubama from the Virginia-Pilot Daily Press and the 757 teams. He'll be coming on to the show. Make sure we pay attention.
Yeah, high school sports. It's all coming your way right here on Cova Sports TV, where you like it, where you share it, and you always subscribe to it. We welcome you back to 757 Sports Talk. Who better to talk local sports with than the one and only Larry Rubama from the Virginia-Pilot Daily Press and 757teams.com. He spoke with us for more than a half hour, and here's a portion of that chat right now on Cova Sports TV. Get your take on signing day and high school hoops and Keyshawn Davis and all the great content you guys have in the Pilot Daily Press and online. But I want to start with first, because I know this is near and dear to your heart. You've been a sports columnist, a writer here for a quarter century, if not longer. And oh, by the way, our Lady Monarchs take on Ohio U, your school today, Ohio University, the Bobcats. But what's happened here, and it's been national news with the Washington Post cutting out its sports department. I know your colleague, your editor, Jamie Frankenberry, did a really good piece talking about just, what the Washington Post, the sports sections meant there. But what's gone through your mind the last couple of days? I know it's tough to see people. We've had Chuck Culpepper on the show before as a guest, but this is always a harsh reality and tough these days to see this happen.
Yeah, it's real tough. I grew up in the D.C. area, and so the Washington Post is what got me into becoming a sports writer. And to imagine that it's gone is hard to believe. I mean, I can remember, since 1978, 79, I used to read the Washington Post every single day. And what I really feel bad about is the high school content, what they built there, and they had their all-Met teams, which was an honor for everybody. I mean, I was fortunate enough to not only be written about in the Washington Post, but also wrote a story in the Washington Post. And that was my highlight of my career, the fact that I wrote about the I forgot the brothers' names now, but the track guys, the track brothers. And so to now have that, I don't know what area is going to do. I mean, there's some other sites that are out there, but there's nothing like the Washington Post. I mean, you say your name was in the Washington Post, it meant something. And now all these other athletes coming up won't have that privilege to be in the Washington Post. And just the content they gave you, it wasn't just about game scores and highlights, but it was about some of their in-depth stories as well. So it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, we see cuts happen all the time, and you've been in this industry here now for so long, and you guys have withstood the test of time, whether at the Pilots. It's a credit to you and your staff, your colleagues, and the people behind the scenes that put in a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears and the thankless hours that go into it, because you hear more often the criticism, why you didn't write about so-and-so, as opposed to the praise of the in-depth stories you can do. We both know this in this profession. But as you watch this new media kind of unfold here and things, and it's different now with social media. I mean, there are some pluses, but there's also some cons, and you shake your head at times because everything's so instant now, and it's changing before our eyes every day, every second, every minute, isn't it?
Yeah, the saddest part to me is, you go to games now, and I can remember when it was just be me, you, and maybe people, maybe another person. Now you got about 20 people on the sidelines, and I'm wondering where's their content being published? Where's it? I don't see it online. You know what I mean? They never hit on the issues. It's all about highlights and stuff like that. And I think what's even worse though is, I got into this business to tell other people's stories, and that's one thing. I don't see anybody talking about, okay, this player is a great player, but what's his background like? What's he about? Or the issues that come up. It's always about the highlights, and it's frustrating because it's like that's what people seem to be wanting. But I'm going to hold true until I can't do it anymore to make sure I tell the story behind the story. Let people know who these athletes are, the issues that are going on, the things that people are talking about, and it's not just about the games. It's unfortunate because everybody wants those quick hits, and that's not what it's about. It's about telling stories. Amen, brother. That's absolutely right. And what's crazy is that, and you saying that, it's so true because now, and this is a time of year where people, they're diehard Washington Nationals fans. They want their spring training content. The Commanders getting ready for the draft off season. All that goes now away with just AP wire. And there's nothing against the AP wire and things of that nature, but it's so hard to fathom what's happening. But again, we send our very best to those that are affected by this, the ones that have been longtime sports writers that dedicated their entire professional careers with it. Let's now delve into, before we get to the high school basketball, let's start about. Let me ask you, I want to add one more thing on that too. It's going to be interesting. So many times I don't think people respect what we do, and then when it's gone, what are they going to do? So I'm interested. A lot of these coaches who gave some of these reporters hard times now, when they don't have anywhere to put anything now, what are they going to say now? A lot of them have that social media space to put things, but that can be a as I always joke about the Rain Man comps people say with me, I said that can be a blessing and a curse. That can be a good thing and also a bad thing. But let's look back for a second on the high school football front. I know we just had signing day, and I think you wrote the piece about Michael Vick's class at Norfolk State, which seems to got more local talent this year. You can hit on that, but the season just concluded, Larry, with the championships. I think we expected Oscar Smith to complete the back-to-back in Class 6, which they did. We anticipated Morey would be in the driver's seat to get a three-peat, which they did, and it doesn't diminish those accomplishments for Doreen McCain's Commodores, Chris Scott's Tigers. But the real surprise to us all was what Lake Taylor did from 3-7 to championship. I'm not sure it was on your bingo card to see Hank Sawyer win another ring this year the way he did, and to have Keon Johnson, well-deserving of Tidewater Player of the Year, to go from really an obscure, unknown name to the top of the mountain. Now, tell me about just what that year was like, because, again, I think that was sort of the story of the year. While Morey and Oscar Smith are certainly the great teams, what Lake Taylor did surprise a lot of folks. Without a doubt, and Hank Sawyer, what I love about him is, he does the old school way. He's not just a football coach, but he's a lot of these guys' father, mother, uncle, whatever. And to see him hold fast to not only what he does as a coach, but also his faith in God and how it's gone down to his athletes. He's preparing for kids, not just for college, but for life. And I went to every time he has a signing day. I don't care if he doesn't have Division I players. I'm going to be there because I know what it means not only to those kids, but the program, to those families, and what these kids are doing. He's put these kids on the line. They had a lot of kids going Division II, Division III, and I was so excited for them. But he gives his heart, man. It's a passion for him. It's just not about winning games. It's about, establishing a program and putting these kids, making it better for them in life. And I think people need to see that. I heard all the grumblings, when he went through last season, and people talking about him. His time is over. His time is over. I know he kept hearing that all the time. He said, okay, just wait a little while and look what happens. Not only does he turn the record around, but he wins a state title. And to see those guys going on to that next level now, I'm excited for him. And, man, Hank, man, people don't realize, man, this guy's been around. He knows it, man. He knows it. And his faith is amazing. And you see what happens when you got people believing not only in yourself, but also in God and see what he did. So I'm so happy for him. So happy for him.
Yeah, I couldn't because of all my travels and things and so forth. I couldn't make it over there for signing day, but we did have him on the show. He cracks me up every time talking about. He was joking with Ed about his. I'm going to get there to the Smithfield game. I watch everything closely. Hank pays attention to everything closely, but you really cracked me up. You put up the video of him. He was singing for his guys, right, on signing day. How about that?
Man, it was so great. It was, and he did it, and it's not the first time he's done that. But something just said, you know what, man, Larry, hit record. And he sang that song, boy, and I played it for my wife, and she was like, man, who's that singing? I said, that's Hank Sawyer, the coach over at Lake Taylor. And he sang that song. He had some people get ready to shout. We was in church. We were in church. We were at a Saturday. We were at church. So it was awesome, man. It was a great, I'm so glad there and to see him, catch him in that moment, because that was him for real. And he sang that song. Yeah,
that's so great, and no doubt about it. Maybe his album will be coming out soon. On the signing day piece, anything really jump out at you or grab you? We know about some of the big names which you guys have in your top 50, the Travis Johnsons of the world going to Michigan, and some of the bigger names. But certainly, it looks like Norfolk State is starting slowly after a rough year in year one, the debut for Michael Vick, to get some of the local players to stay home.
And I think that's so important. A lot of the guys said the same thing. They say, hey, you know what? I want to try to make that change in this program. And I don't know if anybody's been seeing on BET, they're doing a big Michael Vick experience type thing where it's 8 episodes. And the first one ran on, I believe it was on signing day on Wednesday. And here, he knew it was going to be tough, but I don't think he realized it was going to be that tough. And to see that going on, he's got a lot of kids coming in there. Now it's going to see what can they do with it. I tell you the one thing, I do that top 50 thing every year. You never know who's going to come in, who's going to fall out. And I bet you it was at least 10 other kids who signed with Division I schools. And I'm so happy for them, and there's a lot of kids in that top 50 who didn't for whatever reason. And I think the other big thing that I saw too that I enjoyed, Bobby Rome, Chicago State, did a first-year program. First time the Windy City is going to have a Division I football program, and he's got a bunch of kids from this area going there. He knows what the 757 is all about, and so seeing all those players going to him, it was a good thing. And you're seeing the Norfolk States, you're seeing VMI, a lot of these other, William & Mary's getting a lot of kids from here, so it just shows how rich this area is. But the other thing to it, I got a column coming up on Monday talking about how the whole signing day thing is changing, and talked to DeRee McCain about it. And he went to a 3-day clinic down in Charlotte, and talked about how it's changing and how he's got to now prepare his parents and his players for this new change. I mean, there are a lot of kids. It's not about signing these high school kids anymore. It's about signing these kids who are in college, jumping into the portal, getting experienced college players now. And so it's going to have an effect on our area. I mean, we had a lot of kids that signed on signing day, but it's going to affect our kids. It's going to affect our kids. And it was just, him talking about getting ahead of the curve, getting ahead of it. You can't complain about it. You got to adapt to it. And that's what the story is. It's going to be a column. It's going to be in Monday's paper.
Okay, we'll check that out for sure and tease that coming up. But, I'm glad you brought that up, because as we get ready to transition to basketball, we see that happen more frequently now with the high school hoop standouts, where I get asked quite frequently, as I know you do, where's this standout player going to go? We'll delve into some of the key names like the Damian Robinsons at Lansing, just a sophomore, or Keon Mitchell at Norview, who's a senior, getting some attention from some of the area and state schools. But I love that you brought Bobby Rome, former Granby guy, Norfolk guy, got Marcus McCoy from Salem, a linebacker who's going to help, I think, right away. But the recruiting battles are going to be fascinating moving forward here to Larry. We see Old Dominion's coming off a good year. We see Virginia Tech hiring James Franklin, and UVA's already gotten a bundle of these verbal commits. It feels like, I don't know about for you, but for me, I know following the recruiting pretty closely, we're seeing kids commit so much sooner than before, whether it's being squeezed early to do so or they're doing it as juniors now. We're seeing kids. I mean, Lonnie Andrews commits as a junior from Oscar Smith to UVA verbally. We'll see if that verbal does stay and he signed it. It feels like we're seeing that the process accelerated. Do you get that sense as well? It's getting accelerated or sped up?
Yeah, and I think that's what the colleges want. They want to know, hey, what do we have? Who do we have? We want to get this done. If you can't sign with us right now, then we're going to get somebody else. And I think that's going to put the pressure on the kids and the parents to realize, okay, if I don't sign now, what if I don't get another offer? And I know, the college coaches know that. They know, like, okay, you going to sign with me now, or are you not going to sign? And it's going to, when I was talking to, DeRee and I was talking to some other coaches and some other former players just about what it was like going through this. I wrote a story about Pernell Sturdivant last Sunday, former all-star at Lake Taylor as well as at Virginia Tech. And we kind of talked about just this whole scene now, how it's changed, and it's putting more pressure on these kids to have to make that choice right then, because if you don't, you might miss out. And then, you know, of course, and the coach is going to let you know that because they want you to sign right now. So it's, man, I wouldn't want to be, I wouldn't want to be recruited right now. I'm telling you, it's tough. It's tough.
It really is. As we move on for the high school basketball side of things, I just mentioned it. We're less than 2 weeks away from regional starting. We're like, what in the world? I mean, we've had these snow outs. We've had cancellations, postponements. I don't think I've been to a game in like the last 2 weeks. It seems that way. I've been watching more on the computer online through the NFHS network. But I know when I have been at some games, I've run into you at some of the better games in the area. What's your sense of the area? It feels like, you know, last year we ended up having a boys champion Class 5 in Green Run. We know girls-wise, Princess Anne continues to be the queen as long as Darnell Dozier's there and Micah Ojo's dominating things. But this year it might be a little bit more parity, wide open. I don't know that we have a defined championship favorite. What's your feeling right now?
Yeah, I agree because, you know, look at I know even in our own poll, Lansdowne still number one and started off the season number one. I mean, the only 3 games they lost was two ranked teams down in North Carolina, and then they almost beat Petersburg, and so they've been getting it done, you know. But I still think, you know, their key is they got to keep the big man out of foul trouble. When he's not in foul trouble, they keep going. When he's in foul trouble, you see it takes everything off, and then Dwight has to do even more coaching than he's doing already. But I like what Lansdowne's doing. I'm telling you, I really like Hampton. Hampton, man, they look. I haven't seen the games in person, but watching it online, and just seeing their size, their quickness, their outside shooting, their inside game, the defense. Coach Brown's got them guys playing, and I really like. You know, you mentioned. Taft got side, and this is like their balance. I like their balance. 2 teams. I mean, you're looking at Northview look good with the game I saw you at, man. Mitch, I mean, that team. They look exciting, and then Lake Taylor, you know, who they beat that night, they look good. They look really good. So I mean, it's, you know, you can't count out Denby, you know, who they got beat pretty bad by Hampton in the last one, and of course you can never count out Woodside, even though I know they're having some, they're not where they need, where I'm sure they want to be, but you know they got a talented coach and talented team. And then of course you got those teams in the Southeastern District with you know, Oscar Smith, Nansemond River, Kings Fork. So it's like you said, but I haven't seen like that team like, oh man, I know they're going to do it. You just don't know. And on top of that, Lansdowne beating Patriot. That was a big one early this season as well. So, man, I tell you, it's going to be an exciting time. And you can't say, oh, this team's definitely going to win. Yeah, it's wide open right now.
You can see our entire conversation with Larry Rubama from the Pilot and Daily Press by visiting Cove of Sports TV on YouTube. Stick around. We'll close out this episode of 757 Sports Talk next. Hey, Alexa, do you like me?
I think you're magnificent.
Aw, I appreciate that.
This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk with Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
With the Coach Ed Young, I am the magnificent Matthew Hatfield, and we're ready for, what are you shaking your head for?
That was some horseradish.
Horseradish? Why?
That can never be shown again. She has no idea who she's talking about.
Well, it's getting closer to the playoffs for basketball and tournament time for the high school hoopsters. We'll get to the college basketball guys and their tournaments in March. But regionals will be starting despite the weather here that's impacted things and postponed and had teams sidelined. So since it is 757 Sports Talk, Ed, why don't you give the audience the boys basketball projected champions you have for the 757 area regions? We might do it for girls coming up on Saturday or next week's show. Here they are on the screen. Tell us who you have and why.
Region 6, I'm going Lansdowne. They got, even though it's a sophomore backcourt, it's a veteran sophomore tandem. Adequate front court and Dwight Robinson running the show. I'm going Lansdowne 6A. 5A Green Run, you know, champion from last year. I know they lost a lot. They've had some really ups and downs this year. I'm going with Green Run. Kenny Harris, some of those guys have been there before. 5B, close one. I'm going to go Norview. They're very physical on the floor. Tough out for them. And I go slightly over Nansemond River. 4A, Hampton, end of sentence. Region 3A, Petersburg, end of sentence.
I don't disagree with 4A and 3A, but I have a couple of disagreements with you. 6A, I agree with Lansdowne and their guard play being why. I'm going to go with Salem. Not Green Run, not even Princess Anne, who's beat them twice. I like Salem. They played really well. They won like 7 of 8 or 8 of 9. Lloyd DeLoach has balance. I think they'll get a good draw, and I think they're going to surprise some people. Remember, they won a region championship as an 8 seed before, so it's not all that uncommon. And despite Norview having home court in Region 5B and Keon Fats Mitchell, the most explosive player, I like what your former assistant coach, moved to the lead chair. Joe Hassell has done it in Nansemond River. Teron Atwater had a 33-point game recently. They got balanced. They got inside out. They've beaten Norview before, including last year. Should have beaten maybe the year before as well. I'm going to go with Nansemond to win the region, and I do have Hampton and Petersburg. So there you have it, Ed. Those are our picks. And in the final minute here, any one of those teams you like the most, their chances to win the state championship? I mean, you could say the cop-out is Petersburg, right? Even though they're not 7x7. How about 7x7-wise?
Petersburg cop-out, but 757-wise, Hampton.
Hampton, really? Okay.
Yes.
I bounce back and forth between Hampton and Lansdowne. I think it's going to be one of those two that has the best opportunity. But the brackets will be set coming up here soon, and we'll be able to tell you all about them as we continue that march to March. So that's going to do it for this episode of 757 Sports Talk. For the coach, Ed Young, I am Matthew Hatfield, and we'll see you next time right here on COVA Sports TV. Have a great week, everybody.